We better start, yeah. So good morning, everyone, and good morning to everybody joining us online. Yes, I'll be trying to open up this two precepts actually, 4 and 6. So first of all, I'll read 4, and then get to 6, and then I'll just share some of my thinking about it. So when the Venerable Atisha first visited Tibet, he stayed in the western province of Narai. He gave many precepts to the assembled disciples who were under the guidance of Langchang Chubo, and then after 2 years had passed, decided to return to India. Just as he was departing, Langchang Chubo asked, "Even now as you're leaving, could we have one more precept?" Atisha answered, "What I have already taught you is enough." But Langchang Chubo persisted in his request. So Atisha gave this precept. "How wonderful, dear friends! You have clear realization and great knowledge, while I have small worth and am not very intelligent. I am not the one to teach you. Yet since you are close friends and dear to my heart, request me. I give you this advice from my childish knowledge. Friends, have attained enlightenment, the Lama is needed. Therefore depend upon the holy spiritual teacher. Until you fully realize the nature of voidness, you must listen to the teaching. Therefore listen closely to the precept of the Lama. Merely understanding the Dharma is not enough to be a Buddha. You must practice constantly. Go far away from any place that is harmful to your practice. Always stay in a place that is conducive to virtue. Clamour is harmful until you obtain a firm mind. Therefore stay in an isolated place. Abandon friends who increase your fettering passions. Depend on friends who cause you to increase virtue. Bear this in mind. There is never an end of things to do, so limit your activities. Dedicate your virtue day and night, and always be mindful. Once you have obtained the precept of the Lama, you should always meditate on it and act in harmony with his speech. When you do this with great humility, the effects will manifest without delay. If you act according to the Dharma from the depths of your heart, both food and necessities will come naturally. Friends, there is no satisfaction to the things you desire. It is like drinking seawater to satisfy thirst. Therefore be content. Annihilate all forms of pretentiousness, pride and conceit. Be subdued and peaceful. Abandon all that which some call virtue, but which is really an obstacle to the path of practice of the Dharma. As if they were stones on a narrow, slippery path, we should clear away all ideas of gain and respect, for they are the rope of the devil. Blow out thoughts of fame and praise, for they serve only to beguile and delude. As the happiness, pleasure, and friends you have accumulated are of but a moment's duration, turn your back on them. Future life is longer than this life, so carefully secure your treasure of virtue to provide for the future. You leave everything behind when you die. Do not be attached to anything. Leave off despising and deprecating others, and generate a compassionate mind to those who are your inferiors. Do not have a deep attachment to your friends, and do not discriminate against your enemies. Without being jealous or envious of others' good qualities, with humility, take up those good qualities yourself. Do not bother examining the faults of others, but examine your own faults. Purge yourself of them like bad blood. Nor should you concentrate on your own virtues. Rather, you should concentrate on the virtues of others, and respect those others as a servant would. Extend loving kindness to all beings as though they were your own children. Always have a smiling face and a loving mind. Speak honestly and without anger. If you go about saying many senseless things, you will make mistakes. Thus speak in moderation. If you do many senseless things, your virtuous work will cease. Give up actions that are not religious. It is useless to make effort in unessential work. Because whatever you do comes as a result of your karma from long ago, results never match your present desires. Therefore be calm. Alas, it is far better to die than cause a holy person shame. Thus be ever straightforward and without deceit. All the misery and happiness of this life arise from the karma of this and previous lives. Do not blame others for your circumstances. Remember to repay the kindness of the Lama, as all happiness is his blessing. Until you subdue yourself, you cannot subdue others. Therefore, first subdue yourself. As you are unable to ripen others without clairvoyance, make a great effort to achieve clairvoyance. You will surely die, leaving behind whatever wealth you accumulated, so be careful not to gather defilements due to wealth. As distracting enjoyments are without substance, adorn yourself with the virtue of giving. Always keep pure moral practice, for it is beautiful in this life and ensures happiness in future lives. In this world age of the Caligula, where hatred is rampant, don the armour of patience, which nullifies anger. We remain in the world by the power of sloth. Thus we must ignite like a great fire the effort of achievement. Moment after moment, your life is wasted by the lure of worldly activities. It is time to meditate. Because you are under the influence of wrong views, you do not realize the nature of voidness. Zealously seek the meaning of reality. Friends, samsara is a vast swamp in which there is no real happiness. Hurry to the place of liberation. Meditate according to the precepts of the Lama and dry up the river of samsaric misery. Always keep this in mind. Listen well to this advice, which is not mere words, but comes straight from my heart. If you follow these precepts, you will not only make me happy, but yourself and all others as well. Though I am ignorant, I urge you to remember these words. Phew. Phew. So, I found this quite an interesting text. But first of all, I was struck by Atisha's refusal to want to say anything more than he'd already given. and the fact that he really thought he had given enough. But then when he started, it's almost like he couldn't stop. So there's this lovely outpouring of, I suppose it's the outpouring of his commitment to practice and his real desire, his passion for others to follow the path. So I think that's what this really sort of signifies to me. But then I was thinking about, so when I was reading it, I read it many, many, many times, I thought, I have no idea how to unpack this for people who are ordained. And I'm going to say something which I now find a little bit shocking to say, who will know all of this. That's what I was left with. And I was left in this conundrum. I've struggled with it, thinking, well, how do I unpack people? And there's nothing new here in a way for us. In a way, there's nothing Bhante wouldn't have taught us, and there's nothing that Bhante wouldn't have put a great emphasis on. And yet I was asked to unpack it. And then it came to me. I thought, oh, this is really embarrassing. I'm going to have to embarrass myself because this is the Lama. I thought, if we're thinking about what is a Lama in our life, then a Lama can be a close friend, a Lama can be a chance experience, but a Lama can also be a teaching from the Dharma straight to the heart. And I thought, this is the Lama, because what I realised, which is something quite a little bit shocking, is I thought, I've just taken all this very, very literally. In a way, I'm taking this teaching. I know this, we know that, I don't know how to, I can't say anything more about that, you will have all studied it yourself. But actually, that was a teaching in itself, to realise the areas in which we might take this literally and think we know it. We know it, we've probably taught it in Mitra study, we've probably introduced it in Dharma classes, but where are we still practicing this? And I thought, well, what Atisha was doing here with these disciples, he was taking them really seriously, and knowing he'd already probably taught them a lot of this, but knowing our innate human ability to just take things at a literal level, he's really encouraging us to go further. And I thought, oh, that's what this is. This is encouraging us to go further. So where we have the experience of any of this, of thinking, oh yes, I know the 8 worldly winds, or I know we need to develop metta, that's really, we all know in our hearts that's not enough, that we have to go further. So that was the very first point I wanted to make, which sounds very basic, but it was quite a shocking teaching for me. But particularly, I think, when we've been imbued by Bhante with the need to develop not just the practices, but the spirit. And I thought this is really teaching us the spirit of practice, that it's not something we tick off. And we know this, and I know I'm saying something to the converted, but because I needed to be reminded, I felt it was important maybe to say we all need to be reminded that practice, the practices that we've been given, have a breadth and depth that we need to keep alive, because we need to transform the whole of our being. So that's what I thought this was saying. We have to keep it all alive to transform the whole of our being. So he's talking about a number of things, the need to set up good conditions. So I guess we've all set up conditions in our life, and the duty of us is to ask, are those conditions still conducive? Do they help us to practice the precepts? Are we able to meditate deeply enough to reflect more deeply on the Dharma, so that we begin to open up insights into the nature of reality? Do our conditions really work for us? Or have they just become a set of conditions that we put ourselves in and actually come a bit comfortable in? And maybe they're good enough, maybe they are good enough to help us develop some sort of ease and calm, but are they really challenging us? Are they keeping us on our Buddhist toes, if you like? And if not, is there something we can introduce? Now, we all know that introducing change into a stable situation can be quite tricky. However, I don't think we're talking here about necessarily making changes about where we live or who we live with. But is there an edge in our practice that we've got too easy with? Are we challenging ourselves enough in our daily practice? Which really made me think quite a lot about some of the talks that Subhuti has given on moving from the Karma Niyama to the Dharma Niyama. I really responded to that idea and to those talks. And, that sense that we are always needing to harness the Karma Niyama to move to the Dharma Niyama. We are always needing to harness that process, that karmic process. I did make a few notes. I just want to make sure I'm being clear here. One of the things that I appreciate about Subhuti saying in one of his talks that karma is a long-term process, and it's something we really need to have confidence in. And that skillful efforts will purify our minds, and it does work. Now, I'm sure that we've all had enough experience behind us to know that it works. And I wonder, and maybe I'm wondering here for myself, do I do enough in my daily life to harness those karmic forces? Do I do enough to transform the Dharma, the karmic, the Karma Niyama into the Dharma Niyama? Am I putting enough effort in, is I guess what I'm asking. And there was quite a bit in what he was saying about, which really stood out for me, and I thought, different things will stand out for each of us in this, and I'm going to give us some time for reflection in a moment. But what really stood out for me was a little bit about there's always enough to do. There's no end to what there is to be done. And I know that, living here at Adhisthana, there's a lot to be done. My mind can get full of a lot to be done. And just remembering that there's no end to it is sort of a vital part of working for me with the Karma Niyama. So it's like working out in our own lives, where is it that we need to really put that effort in? There were a few points that I wanted to draw out from what Bhante was saying. And a couple of them I think are really important. One of them was if you act in accordance to the Dharma from the depths of your heart, both food and necessities will come naturally. Bhante makes some points which you can read, where he says that this is strongly believed in India and Tibet. But the trouble nowadays is that there are too many people and too many people who are busy, so that that isn't such a necessarily going to happen. But I actually thought, I thought there was something a bit more important for me in that. I think we really do have to be careful of thinking that when good things come our way, it is it's almost like saying we have been doing the right thing and we have been successful in what we're doing, and that's the assurance that we're on the right path. Bhante talks about this, and he says it could almost add up to saying that if you're successful and prosperous, it shows that you're on the right path and that you've got God's approval. And I remember very strongly, I was in Sydney once, and an order member's car got stolen from outside of the centre. And he came in and he said, "Why did that happen to me? I'm practicing so hard, I'm giving so much. Why was my car stolen?" And I thought, it is very interesting, isn't it? We can fall into views around, because we're doing good or the right thing, that things will actually always go right for us. And if things start not going right, we can start to doubt. So I think we have to look out for where doubt can creep in. And it can creep in very insidious ways. So if our life starts to take a turn that we didn't expect or didn't want, doubt can creep in about the path. So it's sort of looking for these in our sort of mundane daily experience, and beginning to recognise that maybe part of us does believe that because we're doing the right things, good things will naturally follow. Or it becomes even worse than that, doesn't it? It almost becomes like we think we might have a right to them. They're our right because we're Buddhists and we're doing, we're working hard on ourselves and those sorts of things. I think there was another thing that I thought was really worth drawing out. Something that Bhante says on the section, abandon all that which some call virtue, but is really an obstacle to the path. And what Bhante says here is interesting. He says, I think what he has in mind here is respectability. It was during Atisha's time, after all, during a whole period concluding with his time, it was during a whole period concluding with his times that in order to lead a spiritual life, many teachers had to leave the monastery because the monastery had become so respectable. I thought, oh, wow, that's so interesting, isn't it? Yeah. And it brought up two areas of thought for me. One was around us and our respectability. We're now 50 years old, or maybe just a little bit more. And are we becoming respectable? Are our centres becoming just places of respectability rather than places of challenge, rather than places of really, what's the opposite word?
Disrepute.
Radical, that's the word I'm looking for. Not disrepute, I don't want to speak places of disrepute, but really, are there places where you come and you think, I am meeting something that radically challenges the way that I'm living my life? So that was one area, and I thought, well, we can all reflect on that both personally and in any situations we're involved in. But I thought, I wonder if another area, particularly for some of us, we're greying, getting a bit grey and all of that sort of thing, are we settling down? So it could be seen as a virtue, isn't it? As we age, we become calmer and take things more in our stride. And I think I was speaking with somebody the other day and we were saying, actually, something like that does come with age for most people. I saw it with my mum. My mum was a really feisty woman and, was up for a fight with anybody really. But as she aged, that just began to fall away and she became much more easy and much more, look, things are the way they are and all of that sort of thing. So for her, that was actually a virtue. But I thought, we really do actually have to look out for, are we just settling in with easy conditions for ourselves? Have we stopped challenging something where we could still be more radical in our lives? I'm just trying to think of an example in my own life. Well, it is very comfortable living at Atisha, in many ways. There's always a lot to do, but that would be the same anywhere else. But life can get very comfortable. And we have to look in our community, and certainly during the lockdown, we had quite a lot of discussions about how do we keep the edge of practice here so that we don't just settle into a nice, comfortable retreat centre existence. And for me, it's so distasteful for me to think that I could do that. But it's distasteful on the one hand, but what do I need to do on the other to bring in something more dynamic and fresh? Well, for me, it's sitting here doing this. You know, this is my worst nightmare. Sitting with other senior order members, more senior than me, more experienced than me, trying to unpack a text. So for me, that really does bring in a challenge and forces something in me to grow. So what are we doing that keeps that element fresh? I think that is quite an important question. Let me just see what else I was going to say. I guess also, I'm jumping around just a little bit, so excuse me. Also in this precept, we do see themes emerging from the previous precepts. So I think these are themes that we can really take the Atisha and maybe the whole Kadampa school take very seriously. Of course, we've heard about the importance of the Lama and the constancy of practice and the dedicating of our merit. So those seem to be really themes that we've been through them a couple of times already, and they keep reappearing. So the constant practice. I really like this bit. Always have a smile and loving mind. Well, I mean, Bhante quite clearly says in the commentary on this, that doesn't mean going around with a, don't be false. He's not saying be false, but I think it is really drawing out the fundamentals. This is really what I was thinking when I was looking at this. There are fundamentals in practice that we never leave behind. So this is drawing out, we don't leave behind mindfulness, we don't leave behind metta, we don't leave behind the mind trainings, the mind turning events. A lot of what's said here, I think we'll find later on in the mind trainings. It's sort of like the precursor to them, I think. And what was I going to say? Something that wasn't there. Oh, the worldly winds, that's it. Oh goodness, the worldly winds are probably one of the earliest teachings that I came across. And I think it's one of those fundamental teachings for me that I need alive every day. After I've been practicing now quite a long time, 30 years, but the worldly winds still ricochet through my being. Particularly, I'm particularly prone to praise and blame. I don't know that I particularly want praise, but I really do not want blame. I was thinking that the other day when something went wrong with the tech, and I could feel myself wanting to blame somebody else. Well, actually, it really wasn't my fault because I wasn't doing the tech, but it wasn't that. It was more that I wanted to blame somebody. Do you see what I mean? So I think, I don't believe I'm alone in the worldly winds swirling around. So I'm just wondering whether that is a reflection that we keep alive, and whether it is something that informs the way that we're all transforming ourselves. And I thought that could be something we could look at and explore in our groups. Are there particular worldly winds that we resonate with? And quite often it's easy to catch our resonance with the negative, like the blame or that sort of thing. I wonder, do we really catch the positive? Is that something that we catch and see how the positive might inflate us, or we might be sort of feeling grand about something, or all those things that come with those positive qualities. So yeah, I thought that is something that we could really do some reflection on. There was something else in here that I really wanted to draw out. And I mean, there's so much, and most of it we'll have to unpack in our groups, but the thing that really stood out for me is remember to repay the kindness of the Lama, as all happiness is his blessing. This is something I can get a little bit teary about and sort of a bit emotional about, so don't worry if I do. I just wonder whether we really do appreciate all that we've been given. Do we appreciate it enough, actually? Do we appreciate what Bhante, the work that Bhante put in to set up a community that now we can all be aligned with, that reflects our values, that gives the meaning and purpose and shape to our life? Do we appreciate that enough? And I'm not talking here about that Bhante was perfect. Please, that's ridiculous. All of us know that not to be true. But we do know that he gave us a lot. And sometimes I wonder whether there is enough reflection on that. And do we bring that to mind in an appreciative way? And appreciate, I guess, can I come in at this from another angle? What we've been trying to do over the last couple of years at Adhisthana is, as Sadaloka said earlier on, is to really try and bring alive and keep alive some of the teachings that Bhante's given us that could get lost if we don't. And Dharmarati, when we were first exploring this, we did some group work, and Dharmarati and I were sitting in a group. Well, it's just the two of us. And what really we were struck by is both of our feelings that we've only scraped the surface of Bhante's teachings. We've only scraped the surface of what Bhante's given us. And so that really drew out from us the commitment to wanting to go deeper into what he shared with us, wanting to unearth some of the seminars that could easily get lost, because there's so much in them. So again, I'm probably preaching to the converted here, but I just think it's something, I think it's by doing this that we're sort of repaying the kindness of Bhante, or repaying the kindness of the Lama in this situation, that we want to make available the breadth of what Bhante has given us, not just the narrow, sort of obvious things, but the breadth for future generations. So it's not just about us. So this project that we're on here isn't just about us. It's very much about the future and giving to the future all that Bhante's given us. So that was something that I feel from, if I was being Atisha, I'd say that's what I feel from the depths of my heart. Okay, I'm sure there's so much more to say about that precept, but I'm not going to say any more. And there will be time in our study groups, and I really urge us to go away and read this quite carefully and think about what areas in our life need to have more life brought in. Are there things here? I was thinking about it, and I thought, if you read any of it, and there's either a bit of indifference or a rub, a bit like the bit that you don't want to read, then those are the areas I suggest we put some focus on. So if there's a bit of a casualness or a bit of indifference or a bit of aversion, I would really encourage us to draw that out in our reflections this afternoon. So I don't have a lot to say about precept number 6, but I will read it out. So, precept number 6. At another time, Atisha stated, "This Caligula is not the time to display your ability. It is the time to preserve through hardship. It is not the time to take a high position, but the time to be humble. It is not the time to rely on many attendants, but the time to rely on isolation. Nor is it the time to subdue disciples. It is the time to subdue yourself. It is not the time of merely listening to words, but the time of contemplation upon their meaning. Nor is it the time to go visiting here and there. It is the time to stay alone." So in a way, this precept is a shorter version echoing precept number 4. It's sort of saying it's the time when we really need to put effort into practice. And don't worry about the outward display of gathering lots of people, lots of disciples, or the outward display of superiority or high positions. It's really the time to make preparation, the time to go deeper, the time to concentrate on the fundamentals. So getting to know our basic issues and strengthening the foundations, strengthening the center, or making sure that the trunk is firmly established as well as being well rooted, and not bothering to decorate the branches. That's what Bhante says about it. So this is really encouraging us to sort of go to the foundations, harness the things, the teachings that we've got, and go deeper, which is what the first precept number 4 is saying as well. Okay, I think that's probably all that I've got to say. There's a lot for the discussion group, so I hope you enjoyed that. So we'll have a 20-minute break and come back together in our groups in about 20 minutes after, not in about, in 20 minutes after cup of tea. Thank you. So you're in the library, so from now on you'll be meeting in the library seminar room. Yeah.